This live stream may contain mature material some viewers might not find suitable.
Everybody, and welcome. It is the 25th of August 2025, and this is a very special edition of the Level 99 live stream where we are feeling fine all the way up here at Level 99. My name is LDZ, aka Lord Diaz. And we are live across Kick, YouTube, and Twitch. Give it up for Brady, holding it down on Twitch. Sergeant Fanbro, Dark Wind, Link 101, Runa Monet,
F. Lord Diaz,
Nocturnal, Xiaoxi Migami also hanging out with us across the street on the YouTube alternative Twitch. Jordan Fadeaway. Sound off in the chat if I haven't said your name yet. Codeine Crusader. Big ups, everybody. And big ups to the Kickbots. I hope that everybody's Monday is agreeable with them. My Monday was pretty good. Let's get all the pleasantries out the way. It's about time we get into the Raja Jackson Syko Stu stuff. Let's get right into it. I had help. I did some actual note taking. I took some notes and I wrote some thoughts down. And we're going to just get into it. So first off, I want to thank everybody for taking interest in this and coming to me, seeing what my opinion on all this was. I put a lot of thought into it and I saw what everybody else had to say about it. And I figured it was about time for me to put in my 2 cents, being a 20-year professional wrestler. I came up during the really rough times of the early 90s, or late 90s, early 2000s, and then all the way up. And there's a lot of things that I saw and a lot of things that I heard that a lot of people were not commenting on, and I wanted to kind of give my opinions, and this is exactly what it is. It's my opinions on what has gone down. As it stands right now on Monday night, there's a lot of moving pieces. There's a lot of things that we don't know. So we're only going to focus in on what has been reported. I'm going to try and keep my editorializing minimal. However, I do feel like I'm going to be able to express myself and keep it diplomatic, because at the end of the day, I only want what's best for my fellow professional wrestler. And it's unfortunate that this person, this outsider, this MMA guy came in and did what he did, and I'm going to speak on it. So we're going to go over the chat a little bit first, and then I'm going to get into my doc. So Link 101 says, I thought of, quote, work or get worked as soon as I saw this crazy MFer. Like, I don't even keep up with wrestling, and I would know, and I would know what the can was about. It was a compliment, in my opinion, for Syko to do so, and that was a tragedy on all levels. Facts, very true. Darkwind, yes, top tier rated, did do that voice. I paid him for his services. He also contributed to another sound effect that may pop up during the streams. It all really depends. I'm not going to advertise it, but when it happens, you'll definitely know. Sergeant Fanbro says, I'm scamming my fans, which is true. Link 101 very generously contributed $2, super chat style, with the following message: get well, Syko. And that's some real shit. And please do remind me, we're going to celebrate proper. We're going to go over to the green room after this. Have a nice little palate cleanser. Thank you, Nocturnal, Fanbro, and Runa Monet for helping me test the microphone. I'm listening back to all of my live streams. I want to make sure that the microphone sounds good. I've spent a lot of money making sure that it sounded right, and I'm tweaking some things. I listened back to the previous stream. It's getting there. I want it to sound more crisp, but I want it to also sound very deep. I'm looking for that Joe Rogan sound. So if anybody has the ear for it, I definitely do not, and wanted to kind of help me along, I would love any assistance, so thank you in advance. Jordan Fadeaway, father was egging him on, says Jordan Fadeaway. Just sad to see that because it all could have been avoided, and I definitely have some thoughts about that. And yes, Jordan Fadeaway also said that the promotion where all of this happened had their WWE ID association cut. And then everybody also asking about what was going on, Codeine Crusader, Darkwind, and the like. So let's set the stage here. I do think, says Darkwind, the promotion is to blame as well, not shifting the blame from Raj. Absolutely right. Absolutely right. And Chao Shimigami, thank you for hanging out with us, holding it down over on Twitch. Shout out to everybody on YouTube, and big ups to all the kickbots. Let's get into it. Knox Pro Wrestling Academy, owned by WWE Hall of Famer Rikishi, was hosting its Knox Experience event on August 23rd, 2025. The facility had been operating for 17 years as both a wrestling promotion and training academy, serving as one of 5 schools officially partnered with WWE's ID program. Now, let me just stop right there. WWE has a ID program where they take a look-see at promotions and academies and training schools that produce good talent that has a good regimen. Only a handful of promotions got the official stamp of approval for WWE's ID program. There's a couple of people in the independent scene right now that's getting a look at that's getting looked at by WWE, and this is pretty much their way to help build a brand around those people. They see promise in these people, and they put the stamp of approval on them, and you get a better chance at actually becoming a WWE superstar if you go through this process. So essentially, WWE's ID program is a scouting sector of WWE. Continuing on. Among the wrestlers performing that night was Stuart Smith, a 44-year-old Army veteran known by his ring name Syko Stu, who had been using professional wrestling as a way to manage his post-traumatic stress disorder. So, I did some internet research, and this person, Syko Stu, Stuart Smith, served for the country. So, first off, thank you for your service. Of course. And we're going to be taking a deeper look at that once we take it to the timeline. Going back to this, also in attendance was Raja Jackson, the 25-year-old son of former UFC light heavyweight champion Quentin Rampage Jackson. Raja, who had competed in 1-1 or 1-1 professional MMA record, compiled a 1-1 professional MMA record, was streaming the live event on his Kick account after being invited by Knox Pro Wrestler and promoter AJ Mana. All right. The confrontation began outside the venue before the show. In footage that would later circulate widely, Syko Stu struck Raja Jackson on the side of his head with a beer can. According to multiple accounts, this appeared to be part of a planned storyline buildup, with Stu later apologizing once he realized Jackson was not actually scheduled to wrestle. All right, this is important. Put a pin in this. All right. The two men shook hands, and it was agreed that Jackson would run into the ring during Stu's match as part of an angle to resolve the earlier incident. However, the specific details of this spot were never properly coordinated with the wrestlers or promotion management. All right? Get another pin, put it in that. We're going to return to it. As Jackson's live stream continued throughout the evening, his demeanor grew increasingly agitated. On camera, he made several concerning statements, including, "It's always been my dream to mess up a pro wrestler for real," and "I'm gonna punch his ass for real." When asked about a subscription goal, he mentioned 50 subs to knock Stu out. Now, going back to the chat here, Darkwind says, "Someone should have been watching Raj. You could have seen him get more heated. He should have gone home or been asked to leave." True. Very true. Adding to Jackson's anger were allegedly homophobic comments made by his father during a phone call on the live stream, along with viewers in the chat repeatedly goading him to attack Stu. Unfortunate. Ozzy's Game Room, welcome. Watching that footage was sickening, and Raja Jackson showed how much of a lunatic he is. Link 101 continues. Okay, that is new. I wasn't sure where the script was happening and where it was simple miscommunication. We're going to get into it. I'm going to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and let everybody in on some goings-ons. And if people get pissed off at me about it inside of my circle, I would just point them in the direction of your local Netflix, where WWE is proudly advertising their Unreal series, where they're literally talking about the finishes to matches and all the goings-ons behind the scenes and who's winning what and so on and so forth. Kayfabe is dead. All right, WWE killed it. Among other things, which we will get into. So, during Stu's match against another opponent, Raja Jackson entered the ring and lifted the 185-pound wrestler over his head before slamming him face first onto the mat. Stu appeared to lose consciousness immediately upon impact. Jackson then mounted the unconscious wrestler and delivered 23 documented punches to his head and face. The attack continued for several seconds until multiple wrestlers intervened to pull Jackson away. Even then, Jackson attempted to return to the unconscious Stu before being physically restrained by 4 wrestlers and eventually escorted from the building. He was okay with that slam, asks Sergeant Fambro. I'm going to get into that. Because there's a lot of broad strokes being painted right now, and we're going to dig into the finer details once we get to the timeline. Stu was immediately rushed to a local hospital with severe injuries, including broken facial bones and the loss of multiple teeth. According to his brother Andrew Smith, Stu remained in stable but critical care as of August 25th. That's today. The Los Angeles Police Department responded to the venue around 9 p.m. Saturday after receiving reports of attempted murder. Yikes. Officers completed a felony battery report and detectives were assigned to the case, though no arrests had been made as of Monday. That's today. Knox Pro Wrestling issued a statement condemning the incident. What was supposed to be a planned and agreed upon wrestling spot turned into a selfish, irresponsible act of violence against Mr. Smith. This egregious act is reprehensible and never should have occurred. So the fallout. The consequences extended beyond immediate medical and legal concerns. Kick permanently banned Raja Jackson from their platform, and WWE quietly severed ties with Knox Pro Wrestling, removing the Academy from their official WWE ID partner list and unfollowing associated social media accounts. Crazy. Quentin Rampage Jackson issued multiple statements defending his son while simultaneously condemning the violence. He revealed that Raja had suffered a concussion from sparring just days before the incident and should have not been involved in any physical activity. Raja is an MMA fighter, not a pro wrestler, and had no business involved in an event like this, the elder Jackson stated. In a disturbing detail that emerged later after the attack, Raja Jackson was reportedly called by AJ Mana, who informed him that doctors could not wake Stu up and that he had, quote, flatlined in the ring. Jackson's response was simply, quote, my bad. Crazy. As of August 25th, 2025, which is today, the LAPD investigation remained active, with detectives reviewing video evidence and witness statements. The case highlights serious questions about safety protocols at independent wrestling events, the responsibilities of promoters when involving untrained participants, and the dangerous intersection of social media streaming culture with combat sports. The incident has drawn widespread, and I apologize, condemnation, again, speech impediment, from the wrestling and MMA communities, with many calling for criminal charges against Jackson. For Syko Stu, a veteran who found solace in wrestling after his military service, the road to recovery remains uncertain. So, those were the broad strokes of what was going on. And I want to dig a little bit deeper into individual parts of this, because there's a lot that I can glean from what I've seen. And again, these are all of my opinions. They are my own opinions. They do not represent anybody else but my own. This is all just my own top of mind, stream of consciousness thoughts when it comes to this kind of stuff. Link 101 says, damn, Raja is extremely lucky it happened in LA. Most favorable jurisdiction to commit crime and not be persecuted. I don't know anything about that, but I'm going to take your word for it. Only the best hang out over here. And unfortunately, we're going to need to dig down deeper into this. So let's go ahead and open up the timeline. I'm going to open up Twitter. And we're going to start with my post. It was one word. This was on the 24th. And it says, irredeemable. And it has the clip. Rampage Jackson's son was just banned on Kick for beating up a man flatlined in the ring. Fighter could possibly be redacted. I am very hesitant to show this, so we're going to just dive into the comments real quick. Please don't autoplay. Yikes. It autoplayed. Anyways, Meerkat said this absolute mongrel should be castrated. And all this because his stream chat called him a bitch. What an absolute bitch. Charlie Weiss's last belt loop says, effing insane. Belongs underneath the prison. Kick should face consequences, but probably won't. Narcside Phil says 10 years minimum. Chief Randy Hogan says, should be lucky all those other wrestlers didn't beat his ass down. Carney Mark II, says, not sure what I'm looking at or how to feel about it. I will say, though, bro beat him like an animal. And I'm going to not go there, but it does look like a literal hate-filled beating. I'm sorely lacking context here. Just take it as a tourist's comment. And that's probably the realest shit.
We getting that rap money. We getting that rap money.
Navy Vit for Life super chatted $5. Safety meeting, IYKYK.
Hey, thank you so much, Navy Vet, for real. I appreciate that. I'm going to abstain from pressing the sound board right here until after we are done the Syko Stu segment, but we're definitely going to celebrate those $5 that you just super chatted, plus the $2 from Link 101. So do stay tuned. We are going to get through this. This is a serious matter. We're going to handle it. We're going to handle it seriously. So thank you so much for your support, and let's continue. That's Fact says his career is effing overdue in all caps. Joe King version 1 says RVD and Necro Butcher are defending this, by the way. That's unfortunate. The Cactus Cat with a still shot of the bloodied Syko Stu in the middle of the ring. Paul Temp says why somebody didn't intervene sooner to separate them. This is so uncalled for too. And then D-Gade says what the actual F is wrong with these low Q. There you go. Just dropped in. What did I miss? So might as well just play it. So Rampage Jackson's son, unfortunately, had an incident at this show at Knox at this pro wrestling show over the weekend. Essentially, this MMA guy got into the ring and picked this guy up, and I'm gonna show you. By now, he's already out. He hit his head. And as you can tell, he's completely limp. He's out. He's out like a light. PWR Soldier, welcome. Koraz, welcome. You better not press that soundboard. Some of us are trying to sleep. All right, bet. I'm gonna try. And like I keep hovering my hand over it because it's like force of habit. But we are going to push forward. This is the part that kind of gets dicey. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to maybe put some free use juice on this. Let me see here. How can I do this right? I'm going to add a shader to this. It's brutal, guys. Like Smokey McSee, he didn't even show it on his video. And I'm very hesitant to show it on mine. I have an effect that I can put on here that will probably make it a little bit less spicy. Let's try this. Nope, that ain't gonna work. I'm going to give it one more try, and if it doesn't work, I'm going to just keep moving. All right, it didn't work. All right, whatever. There it is. All right, I got it. So then he proceeds to mount him. And he's legit punching him. Here. He's not defending himself. He's linked. At least 23 shots that you can see here. This is absolutely crazy. And okay, so let's just take a look-see here. All right, I'm gonna shame a little bit. The one guy here with the face paint on, he's trying to take him off. Yeah, gosh darn is correct. He's trying to pull him off. He's not doing a very good job. All right, he's getting a couple more shots. And then the only guy here that looks like a professional wrestler gets into the ring and stops him. All right, I have a lot to say about this. He's actually trying to double leg him. He's actually trying to take him down. He's actually trying to stop him. You can hear the crowd screaming. This is not entertainment. This is not part of the show.
Hey, you gotta stop this shit, man.
Camera person or someone off camera is saying we gotta stop this stuff.
Hey, stop this shit, man. Hey.
And then more wrestlers get into the ring. Not a stitch of gear among them. Finally push him into the corner. At least two people with face paint. You can see actually too, one of the guys has their fanny pack on. That is how crazy it was. This guy right here, if you're a worker, most of the time, if you have a fanny pack, that's where you're like selling gimmicks from. That's where your keys and all of your essentials are. So I don't know if this is part of his gimmick or if he ran from the back and he had his fanny pack on him, but it's absolutely crazy. Yeah. Well, there's an entire story going on with that, so we can continue. And we're trying to keep him in there. And then, so that's crazy. Anyway, absolutely ridiculous. Irredeemable is the word I would put for it. Do not autoplay this shit again, Twitter. You're pissing me off. All right. So we have a couple of things to say. We got a couple of things to say and a couple of things to see. All right. So as we were talking about earlier, Syko Stu thought Raja Jackson was a wrestler and was setting up a storyline. He apologized and they talked it out. Raja Jackson proceeded to hit this man with 22 unanswered shots until blood came from his ears. Lock him up. Why can't this shit not just be figured out in a 1-versus-1? Oh my goodness. And the ref also basically stood there. So there's a failure on multiple ends, and we're going to get into that. So let's watch this first.
Hey, I think that's a little. Oh!
So the thing of it was, Raja Jackson showed up to this show. He was invited by the promoter, I think, or somebody. I don't know. I'm not going to pin it on one individual person, but they were invited to come to the show, and they were brought to the back. This is the dressing room. There's a couple of things that I'm going to say about this. I'm an old school guy. I was raised old school. I was raised to keep the integrity of kayfabe alive. And if you don't know what kayfabe is the illusion that all of this is, more than what it is, okay? Just to be diplomatic about it. So you want to keep the, magic alive. You don't want to see how the lady gets sawed in half. You just want to see the lady get sawed in half. You want to suspend your disbelief. And the fact that you're going to invite a Kick live streamer to your show and take the camera crew and that person to the back where everybody is getting dressed, which is the back of the building. It's not even, it's in the back, literally. Yes, Darkwind, it is true. We're gonna get to that, and it's just there's so many things that went wrong here. So I think that Syko Stu, this is what I picked up from the internet, so I may be wrong. Okay, so please take it as a grain of salt. He also likes to keep the business of it alive. He wants to make sure that people still believe, and this guy thought that he was gonna be a part of the show, or at least he wasn't smartened up. There's just a lot of things that were unknown. So he went, and I don't know if he was playing for the camera. I don't know if he legitimately thought that this was another worker. I don't know the thing of it, but we can't gloss over the fact that he did grab a beer can, and there's still debate on whether it was a gimmicked beer can or if it was another beer can. I have two roads of thought when it comes to that, but let's just watch the video and then I'll get into it.
Hey, I think that's a little. Oh!
So, okay, so the quintessential worker punch. You can see Hulk Hogan do this. You can see Mick Foley do this, and I do this. I always reach out my hand and I almost like give them a head pat, or I grab them by the back of their neck. Most of the time, I put my hand on their forehead, and then when I go to throw the punch, I punch my other hand. So I'm not really tagging the guy. But if you're nice with it, you can make it look like really good stuff. What this guy did right here, he reached out, Syko Stu. He, primed him. If he's working another worker, then the other worker should already know that the design language of a worked punch may involve you reaching your hand out to indicate that you're about to throw that punch, all right? So he grabs this can, and then he clocks him on the side of the head.
Oh, you don't.
And then he squares up to him.
He's not a fucking worker, bro.
Listen to that. He's not a worker, bro. They told him after the fact.
Oh, you don't. Easy. He's not a fucking worker, bro. Calm down.
Yeah, what the fuck was that?
You're good.
What the fuck was that?
So now he realized that he's not a worker. He's the live streamer. He's not what he thought he was.
Don't sell it. Dude, he's not a fucking worker, bro.
What the fuck was it? Hold on. I don't play that shit, bro.
Oh, sorry about
No,
that.
I will fuck him
we're
up,
good.
bro.
I know
No,
you will.
no.
We're good.
I will
Sorry
fuck
about
him
that.
up, bro.
I know you will.
All right, so that is what happened before the match, okay? According to what I've gathered so far, Raja was invited to the promotion and got into a little tussle with Stu in the back, as we saw, and they decided to put it into the show. They were like, all right, let's make it right. Or maybe this was the plan all along. We don't know. Again, I'm merely stating the facts that I see them, or not facts, I'm sorry. I'm just outlining what I'm seeing in these videos, all right? I'm not trying to cherry pick any information. I'm just seeing it as it comes. So eventually what happened was they apologized, or he apologized and said, I didn't know. And apparently they squashed it, all right? We're going to get into that. And then they made it a part of the show, because usually the best stories are the ones that have a little bit of truth in them. So they were like, all right, we're going to let this guy come in and do a little deal, do a little bit of business with Stu. And then the roster is going to come out and they're going to break it up. So this is what it was. Stu went for a spear, and then he picks him up. He kind of waits till he turns around. He was stalking him right there. He picks him up. And then look at this. Like, he's not trained to be a professional wrestler. I heard somewhere that he was training as a professional wrestler, or he had some sort of thing going on with professional wrestling, but he's mostly an MMA style guy. He's picking this guy up, and if you look at any wrestler doing any type of move, this is not a traditional wrestling move. I don't know what he could have been doing with this move. Maybe Sheamus's white noise, which is essentially an emerald fusion, if you're a Japanese flavor style wrestling enjoyer. Yeah, Darkwind has it right. He straight shook his hand and accepted his apology. And then this happened. So we're not going to watch it again. We're going to kind of speed through it a little bit. We're going to get back to over here. Yeah. So then he gets...
I understand that. But
on the phone.
They can't wake the nigga up. He's fucking in the ring, fucking.
Look, he's got blood on his shirt, bro. Look at his face. He's scowling. He's breathing heavy, bro. I don't know if this is because of the concussion that he got. And now that I'm thinking about it, he did get hit in the head with a beer can. So I'm sure that didn't help things. I'm going to say this. Unfortunately, in wrestling, especially because you are expected to look a certain way, and sometimes people take things that help that along. And unfortunately, one of the side effects of that is aggression and not being able to regulate your emotions, which is very unfortunate because I see it all the time. It's very common. So none of this is new to me, man. He's breathing heavy.
My bad.
And he said, my bad. Jesus Christ. Let's go back. This is incredible. Listen to what dude says on the phone.
He's fucking in the ring, fucking flatlined.
He's in the ring, fucking flatlined. Listen to what he says.
My bad.
Didn't have to do all that shit. I understand y'all had.
He said, my bad. Jesus. So Rampage is also streaming on Kick. He has Syko, I think, right here. I'm not a fan of Syko either. But Rampage did not do himself or his son any favors with his take on this.
You saw it? Let me see it. You broke his face? Hey, is he gonna get banned for it?
Is he going to get banned for it? He asked if he was going to get banned on Kick before he asked if the other guy was okay. That is unfortunate.
That's really bad? Chat was saying this was bad.
Chad, is this bad? Brock, is this bad? Yeah, so unfortunately, going on, real or stage, Raja Jackson, son of MMA fighter Rampage Jackson, loses it on a pro wrestler, Syko Stu, and brutally goes insane. Too much video exists of a pre-fight altercation, the fight, and then him on the phone in the parking lot, finding out the wrestler was still down. What do you think? Yep. So going over everything that we just saw. Village Nerd says, so after Raja Jackson and Syko Stu made up, after an apology, this guy, AJ Mana, goes to Raja and tells him to give Syko Stu a receipt, which means a real payback for something someone did for the beer can work, which means plans are scripted. What a POS. He instigated it all. Please share this and expose this POS. Also, looks like he's friends with... I don't know who that is. All right. Friends with Rampage, probably. All right. So let's open up this video and listen. Listen.
You run in on his shit, you fucking give him his receipt. You remember what a receipt is? Give him that fucking receipt, bro. Tag his shit. If you got a fucking problem with it, I'll fucking run out there. Tag his shit, bro. You run in on his shit.
So I don't know, man. This could be for the camera. This could just be for the stream. This could be him trying to snake this other dude. I'm not going to say. There's a lot of different ways that this can go, but it's unfortunate because, I mean, anybody that takes a glance at this will automatically say that this guy, unfortunately, had a very heavy hand in seeing all of this happen. The machinations definitely were taken in consideration with this guy. So, oh, man. And again, in wrestling, you really don't have friends, okay? I'm just going to say it straight up. You really don't have a lot of friends in wrestling. Everybody's out to make money. Everybody's out to snake each other. It is not a place to make friends, all right? So when I see potentially and hypothetically, okay, that somebody would go up to this MMA fighter and say, I need you to legitimately hit this guy, take this guy out. That shows, one, a very poor decision-making process, because what if, and I mean, we already seen it, what if this guy really believes in this shit and takes him to task? Another thing of it is, like, protecting your fellow worker, and that's like one of the biggest oxymorons, the biggest the juxtaposition of professional wrestling, is that it's very difficult and very rare to trust somebody enough to put your well-being and your body on the line with that person, because you do put your faith and your trust in the people that you work with. Meanwhile, everybody's out to get their own. And I'm not speaking on everybody. I'm saying the vast majority of my experiences have been like that. Yeah, absolutely. It's not a good look in any direction, Ozzy. I'm just saying. And yes, he was egged on. And it does sound like he was being put on. Like, I'm not saying like these are what these people are. I can only talk about my experiences with that. People will snake each other for the dumbest shit. And this looks like another one of these things. Anyways, Nemesis says, I've seen pro wrestling throughout my whole life, and this is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Hope Raja Jackson gets life in prison, and my thoughts go out to Syko Stu. Now, this is the crazy part, okay? The Meddler says, the wrestler that Raja Jackson attacked was a former Army veteran who suffered from PTSD and used pro wrestling as an outlet to get away from his personal issues. Let's look at this together and tell me that this is not the worst look that you can have beating this guy up.
Pro in 2009. I had just got out of the military,
Hello.
probably about 6 months earlier. I got out of the military, I joined Knox Pro, because I needed something to focus on. I needed something to help me adjust back into civilian life. A lot of veterans, it's hard for them to readjust into civilian life coming from the life of the military. I'm an American soldier that suffers from PTSD. Being in front of a crowd, it doesn't give me as much anxiety and aggression as I thought it would. Pro in 2000.
So, I see a lot of people that have served working in professional wrestling, and after a while, you do get to know these people, and unfortunately, serving in the military is like a meat grinder, just like professional wrestling. And so that's why I could see the parallels, because pro wrestling really does dress you down. It really does beat you up. It really is an abusive relationship, but for whatever reason, we keep putting ourselves through this type of stuff. Maybe in hopes that one day you do get that one moment where the crowd is responding to you and loud and nothing else matters but that moment. And so, of all people to put hands on, this guy right here, unfortunately, he almost murdered somebody that served. So that's crazy. Fear Buck says Rampage Jackson's son gets banned on Kick after being told the man he beat up flatlined in the ring. Let's listen.
Hello?
Hey, where the hell are you at? I told you to double leg that motherfucker and start welding him. I just saw the video.
Shit pissed me off, though, Andre.
You pissed me off, though, okay? Tensions rise and stress levels increase, especially on show days, especially when you have a performance coming up, and especially when you're also delegated to doing a whole bunch of other stuff. It's not just merely going out there and having your match. It's setting up the ring. It's getting the truck to the building. It's putting out the flyers. It's training at the school. There's so much more that people do not see beyond what they see when they buy a ticket and they come see the show. I couldn't imagine, like, in any other industry or in any other way of life, that you would dedicate thousands of hours of your life for the opportunity to possibly get 2 to 3 minutes out there in that ring. If you were to tell me that, if you were to write that down and give that piece of paper to me 20 some years ago when I first decided to start doing this, I would have gone in the other direction. It's absolutely ridiculous. And there's always stories like this. This isn't the first. This definitely isn't the last. And I'm going to be perfectly honest with you guys. This isn't actually the worst thing that has happened in the middle of the ring. A lot of people like to say that New Jack is a legend. He's an ECW original. But he stabbed the guy. He literally stabbed the guy with a knife. I've seen the footage. He stabbed the guy with a knife, like Halloween style. And he shook the knife inside of him. New Jack also took a actual legitimate baseball bat and hit a 70-year-old man in the head with it multiple times. That was also an attempted murder masquerading as a wrestling match. And it all comes down to toxic masculinity, bravado bullshit. All of these people out here saying that they don't want to be disrespected. They're trying to puff their chests out. They're really just masking insecurities. I've never seen the biggest group of divas in my entire life than male professional wrestlers. And that's including the women professional wrestlers. The men are the biggest divas.
I understand that, but no, they can't wake the nigga
Mass
up.
transit, you got it right. Deep cut.
He's fucking in the ring, fucking flatline, bro.
My bad.
My bad. Jesus Christ. All right, we're going to leave it at that. So there's a lot of things that went wrong, and I'm just going to start at the beginning. And we touched upon it in the chat, and it is thus. So the promoter apparently invited this guy to the show. But did he tell anybody on the roster? Did he smarten any of these guys up? Did Syko Stu know that this guy was showing up with his camera crew and that they were going to be doing some business together? Did the promoter smarten up Raja and say, hey, some of these guys are old school and they want you to, for lack of a better understanding of it, play a role, play the part? That was also a failure. Saying, hey, we like to keep things a little bit, close to the chest. At the end of the day, we're all just performing, and we're all here to be safe and take care of one another. I don't think that information was conveyed to him. Also, I think it was a poor choice for Raja to not say, hey, I was concussed during sparring earlier, and I should not be in the ring. If this state... what state was this? California? I don't know what the state of California does for their state athletic commission, but in certain states, you need to have an ambulance on site the entire show. You need to have a doctor on site throughout the entire show, or you can't have a show. And if they do have a state athletic commission, it doesn't really sound like they have one. Because they would have to take Raja aside and give him some tests. Like, for an example, for certain shows in certain states, I have to get checked out by the doctor. They have to take my blood pressure. They have to do the eye scan test, where they put the pen in front of you and you have to follow it with your eyes. They have to check to see if you have any injuries in your ribs, in your arms, in your legs. They literally put their hands on you. They grab your wrists. They tell you to spin your wrists, spin your elbows, spin your shoulders. And that's for every show. If you have a license in the state, you have to do a certain type of regimen in front of the doctor before they sign off on you. So if you were to get a license in a certain state, every year you have to go through the same process. You have to jog in place. They have to check your blood pressure. They have to give you a more rigorous examination. There's different, it's not a federal style thing. Each state has their own thing, and then in most states they don't have anything. So I'm going to assume California didn't have the mandate that you need to have a doctor on the premises, because they could have easily seen that maybe something was wrong. They could have asked Raja, hey, have you suffered any head injuries lately? All of that. Like, the negligence is the perfect word for it. And I'm only speaking from what I see so far, and I am perfectly okay with evolving my opinion if faced with new information. But as it stands right now, negligence would be the appropriate word for this. Beyond that, and this is something that kind of like the crux of where I'm coming from right now. I've trained as a professional wrestler for the majority of my life, more than half of my life. Absolutely. And you have to fight, claw, and scratch to get put onto a show that's worth anything. Unfortunately, there's a lot of promotions out there that will let their friends on, they'll let their family on, that'll let them be characters on a show. And the barrier to entry to not only promote a show, but to be on a show is all but gone. I had the experience of growing up, coming into the business back when the Attitude Era was huge and ECW was huge, and it was just the wild, wild west. It wasn't seen as such the product that it is today. I was in it at the very beginning, and probably the reason why I got my break was because there was such a low standard coming in. I had to unlearn everything that I learned over half of my career in order to do it the right way. And it wasn't until I finally got it that I realized that everything that I did up until that point didn't matter, and I wasted so much of my body and my time doing the wrong thing. And for all intents and purposes, this was the wrong thing. Sergeant Fambro just hitting us with some information. In California, a licensed physician is required to be present at professional wrestling events under the California State Athletic Commission. Yikes. Well, there you go. Thank you for looking into that. So, also, going back to what I was saying, it takes a lot for anybody to be put on a show, because if you're worth your weight, then it's going to show. If you're talented, it's going to show. The cream rises to the top. But unfortunately, there's a lot of outlaw mud shows ran by people that want to put their friends or themselves over and be the stars that the other promotions will not allow them to be, because they know better. They know their worth. And then they go and gas themselves up, gaslight themselves even into believing that they're a big deal, when at the end of the day, we're all just king shit of Turd Mountain. Who's going to be the best of the flea market performers, you know? It really, you have to take the 1,000-yard zoom out view of all of this and realize that at the end of the day, it's just a bunch of performance art. It's a bunch of theater kids that also happen to be on a lot of narcotics or coming from messed up backgrounds. It's really bad. It's really bad. Like, saying it out loud makes me really, like, see how crazy this shit was. And let's just call it like we see it. I don't know what kind of can Syko Stu hit Raja with. If it was a soda can, I'm hoping it was a soda can. Maybe some sparkling water, seltzer water. But if it was a beer, it would be unfortunate if he or other members of the roster were drinking before they had their match. That is a huge no-no, at least in the modern era. Going back to how things were when I first started, half of the locker room were inebriated or drunk or something. There was always something wrong with these people, which is unfortunate. Nowadays, it's not as prominent, but it still exists in certain pockets. It looks like a beer can, yeah. And that's why I'm always trying to preface all of what I'm saying here, because I'm not saying that it is. I'm just merely presenting the opportunity for these roads to be traveled. Yes, and I also heard it was a prop can, which is interesting to me. I hope that it was, because then, like, the least of what it was could be then this guy didn't know and then he took it serious. I mean, and then even that, if we're peeling away at that, if you were around wrestling as long as I have, you'll see again these divas who don't want to be put in positions where they look weak or where they make someone else look stronger than them, which is unfortunate, because pro wrestling, the art of it is making your opponent look good. And that's why Ric Flair was such a superstar, because anybody he worked, he made them look like $1 million. You know, you want to be the person that makes everybody else look good, because then everybody wants to work with you, and that's how you make the real money. Really tough to tell from the videos, yes. And a lot of people, I mean, the internet is a wealth of misinformation, but as far as I can see, and as far as from what I could glean from the internet, it was a beer can. And I mean, pro wrestling tradition usually has a lot of the boys drinking beer in the back, which is unfortunate. Yeah, the first thing Stu said is, you're not going to sell it, like asking him, you're not going to sell it, like asking as if he was like a worker or not. I don't know. So, again, spots on the show are very few and far between. And it is kind of disrespectful to allow somebody who has not had the required amount, and I'm just saying required for lack of a better term, an acceptable amount of training to get into a ring and to pick up another person and drop them. Raja was very untrained in the ways of professional wrestling. There is an art to it, and that's why I kind of pointed out some things that I've seen in the video. To be able to look back and realize all of the positions and all the opportunities that were given because of situations where somebody couldn't make it, or we just needed to slot somebody in. Everything is fluid, and everything can be changed on a whim. And so it's always best to temper expectations. It doesn't happen until it happened, and then you can talk about it. And if I was a guy that was training at that school, working for the opportunity to get on a show, it would kind of be insulting to me to see somebody showing up, live streaming, get an opportunity to get a spot on the show, and then squander this opportunity the way that they did. So it's like, again. So, again, this also turns to a wider phenomenon which is going on in professional wrestling, and I will use WWE as the biggest indicator of this. Logan Paul, noted live streamer, one of the most popular internet personalities currently, is a WWE superstar, gets put in prominent positions on shows, and that is a smart business plan, okay? He's also very athletic, and he's taken to WWE very well. As a performer, Logan Paul is absolutely amazing. The return on investment was well worth it. However, unfortunately, that comes at the expense of people who may have trained their entire lives, sacrificed their lives, their time, their time with their families, with the hope in mind that their hard work will show through enough that they will actually be put on WWE TV, just to have somebody that built their own brand away from the Performance Center or away from WWE to then be presented the spots on the shows that you are working so hard to get. And that's where I feel like the crux, coming back to it, of one of my biggest issues when it comes to professional wrestling as a whole right now. So I put in a lot of time into these live streams, the sets, the microphone, the sound effects, all of it, the research. I put a lot of time behind the scenes to make everything work properly because I want to put on a product that I would want to watch. And I watch back all of my stuff, and I consistently say on stream that I'm looking for an off-ramp from my real-life job and professional wrestling. And I want to do this because I know that I am my own boss. I choose who I can work with. I'm in absolute control as to what's going on. I'm in control of what the content is, and I don't have to answer to anybody or make any compromises. Because I've compromised myself so much for professional wrestling with the hope in mind that I would one day be put in positions that be put in bigger positions, be put and showcased in better positions. And unfortunately, I can see the business side of it. I have been in professional wrestling long enough to know that at the end of the day, professional wrestling is a business. And if somebody comes in from the outside that gets more eyeballs to the product, which potentially could get more people to buy a ticket or subscribe to your channel, then that's how it's going to be. And so that's why I feel like if I could put more effort into what I'm doing on my live streams and producing content, then I don't need to have that carrot dangled in front of me, that professional wrestling carrot dangled in front of me anymore. Because, again, the work that I put into professional wrestling is like a third full-time job. And if I were to have somebody walk in through the door and then put in a position on the show that I knew that I could deliver on, and that unfortunately, I hate to say it like this, I'm not going to say I deserve it, but I put in the work that would allow me the opportunity to get these spots. But if there's more money in the other person, then I get it. That's why when I come back to the live streaming stuff, if I could build my own audience, if I can have my own community, if I can call my own shots to the point where I'm bigger than what I was in pro wrestling, then I could finally let go of doing professional wrestling. Because unfortunately things like this happen, and it happens regularly, and I see it happen. It's not I see it on the internet or I see it on the timeline. I've experienced it. I've lived it. And when it comes to things like this, it just takes my joy and my love of wrestling away from me, because it stains all of the work that everybody has done previously and all the work that people are going to be doing after the fact. Because then I mean, obviously this has become the talk of the internet right now. And so it's going to put a black eye, a blemish on professional wrestling. And trust me, professional wrestling does not need another blemish on it. It is not sterling. It is not perfect by any means. It's just another reason for people to point and look and say, what are you doing with your life? If this is what you're striving towards, if this is what you're working towards. And that's, I feel like, all I'm going to have to say about this, because I don't want to be a complete downer on this, but it is a sad but true fact that it is not easy to be a professional wrestler. It is not a rewarding or enriching lifestyle. It takes more than it gives. It is a what have you done for me lately style business. People that you work for hate you. People that you work with hate you. They don't want to see you succeed. And sometimes you'll get a element of people that want to see you not do it anymore, and potentially worse. So, with all that being said, let's go to the chat. And I'm sorry, I was not looking at the chat at all this entire time, so we're going to catch up. Ozzy's Game Room says, just like in life, all you can hope for is to get the opportunity and show what you can do. Darkwind says, this was a really interesting perspective. Thank you. And I really appreciate that, because I did get a lot of people asking me if I was going to talk about it, and it feels nice to have my opinion matter in this realm, because in professional wrestling, it's unfortunately structured in such a way that you are not in control. Your hard work and everything that you put into these things could be taken away or adjusted at the drop of a hat, and there's nothing that you can do about it but eat it. Eat the shit. Raja is a Nepo baby, says Sergeant Fambro. I heard that too. And of course, if your dad is Rampage Jackson, I think it comes as no surprise. Ozzy's Game Room says, really tough to tell from the videos. Yep, we were talking about the beer can and the prop can. Cocona Lemonade, welcome. I apologize if I didn't get to you earlier. I remember a wrestler named Chris Melendez in TNA a decade ago. I wish I could remember, but unfortunately, I've also been dropped on my head, and I've also suffered a few concussions myself. And it's a real thing. My short-term memory is shit. And sometimes I look back at the things that I did, and I wish that I didn't do them. But of course, I was young. I was trying to make an impression, and I was trying to show them that I really cared. Fambro continues, needs to learn how to control his temper. Yes, emotional regulation is very important here on this corner of the internet. Darkwind says, this guy also may not have been in a good place either. Yep, you never know what's going through a person's mind, and especially if you're concussed. I'm going to tell you this. One of the first symptoms of being concussed is being very aggravated. Very aggravated. You know when old people start losing their minds? They get dementia, like they turn to real bitter, like angry people. It's because you're mad at yourself for not being able to remember what you're doing. Like it's like a thing that kind of dresses you down and really strips away your your sense of worth, and so you get mad. Nocturnal says it's the first you're seeing it. I'm sorry that this had to be the way. PWR Soldier welcome says Rampage messes around too much. Yeah, no shit. Nocturnal says he's no King Snake. And let's see here. Keep going. Koraz with the jokes. Why is Rampage hanging out with that loser? Yeah, I'm not a fan of Sneeko either. F Sneeko. Link 101 says, how would you feel if you didn't have breakfast this morning, Raja? I'm sure you would flip shit. Might Makes Right says Cult of Carney, I suppose. But he was angry and he was disrespected. Cult of Carney continues. Well, I'm kind of disrespected that this guy came into a professional wrestling ring, something that somebody has to work very hard to get to, and just did what he did. So I'm going to take offense to that. Ozzy's Game Room says, clearly the promotion did a horrible job of communicating anything to anyone. This is true. If true. Coraz EQ says beef squashed with a steak and hammer emoji. Darkwind says this is on the promotion for not letting them know the guy was part of the show. Yes, and that remains to be seen if there's anything else that we can glean from that. Sergeant Fambro says Stu saw the camera and I bet he thought it was part of the show. Very true. More miscommunication, unfortunately. Ozzy's Game Room says at first I thought Stu started it, but then realized what really happened. Cult of Carney says not a worker. This is true. And Darkwind didn't know any of that, so there you go. I'm all for some sort of legislation for publicly live streaming. That I'm going to have to agree with. These live streamers, these in real life live streamers, are becoming a nuisance. I don't like the public. I don't like people. I don't want to go places unless I have to. I will actively avoid going places if I could. I've had my fill of the public, okay? It's not that I want to be a shut-in or that I have poor social skills. I've socialized enough with the public, okay? In my 15-some years of telecommunications installations being in people's houses, I've realized that I don't like people. And I'm okay with saying it. You guys are great. Only the best hang out here, but I just do not like people, all right? The small talk, the getting to know people, like I can do without it, okay? I love you guys, do not get me wrong, but when it comes down to it, I'm not actively seeking socialization with people because I've had enough. My social battery is beyond drained. And then Darkwind, yes, lore, is it true the wrestlers pinned Stu after this? Yeah, the show must go on apparently, which was unfortunate. So the ref was wrong because as soon as Stu was knocked out from that slam, the ref should have jumped in there and stopped it, okay? So there was also negligence on the ref's part. There was negligence on the other workers that were in there. It was like a battle royal or something. It was a scramble match or something. There was more than one wrestler out there in that ring. The one guy tried to pull him off, but it was obvious he wasn't really trying, and then all it took was the one guy that actually looked like a wrestler, by the way. Here's another thing. As a wrestler, and I was very guilty of this too, okay? There comes a time when you have to put your big boy pants on and you have to get actual gear. And that means you have to spend a couple hundred, maybe $1,000 or so on in-ring gear, okay? You just can't get stuff that you bought from Amazon. You can't just get stuff that you bought from eLucha or eBay or anything like that. Custom gear. That also involves getting in shape, a healthy diet, a good workout regimen, not eating garbage, okay? Unfortunately, the majority, I'm going to say 99% of people that were in that ring during that segment were wearing t-shirts, were wearing pants, like Dickies, shorts. The one guy that looked like a worker, that actually had definition, that actually was in shape, the one that actually was wearing trunks and gear and stuff like that, he was the only one that actually stopped him. Then everybody else came in. All right, face paint is not gear, okay? I, in my career, wore pants that I bought from Walmart, bright reflective raver pants that I got from my girlfriend at the time, Jenko jeans. I did everything that I could to make a character that didn't have to wear gear until eventually I finally did get pleather shorts and pleather long pants, which were not form-fitting, which looking back at it was so early 2000s. And then eventually getting form-fitting gear, actual singlets, actual wrist tape, getting a tan, getting in shape, and actually looking like a wrestler. And it's very difficult for me to look like a professional wrestler when I'm 5'5", 155 pounds, but I'm for sure not going to be out of shape, or at least try not to be for the most part. You familiar with this promotion? Apparently it's owned and operated by Rikishi. Yes, it was a part of the WWE ID program, but since has been revoked. Yeah, and I think he did some stuff in Japan too. Oh, okay, well there you go. And Joe Dub, thank you for coming out. Big ups again. Glad to hear your perspective on this. I appreciate you guys listening. Your memory is shit because you're getting old. I mean, that may be true. I'm going to say that that is true because I'm definitely coping for that. Didn't Rampage do some wrestling with TNA like years ago? That sounds familiar. I'll regale you with the TNA story before we close the book on this. and this is so professional wrestling, and we're going to talk about an outsider in another sport coming into wrestling, and the challenges that the promotion had to work with when it came to it. Adam Pac-Man Jones used to work in TNA for a little bit, and he was tag team champions with R-Truth, I think. However, if you were to go back and watch any Pac-Man Jones match, you could see that he never got physical with anybody. He always did misdirections. He always did some evades. He always let R-Truth or whoever his tag partner was do all the heavy lifting and all the work. And that was because even though he was doing TNA spots and he was on the show, he was not able to get physical with any of the professional wrestlers. And I may be gilding the lily a little bit on this. This is well over a decade ago. But that just goes to show when it comes to professional wrestling, if it makes money, if it makes headlines, pro wrestling will figure out a way to make it work. How are you going to have somebody who's then ending up as one of your champions work in a pro wrestling match? They don't come to see Adam Pac-Man Jones wrestle. They came to see Adam Pac-Man Jones. So if you can just build wrestling all around it and you can mask the fact that he can't do much of anything in tag matches, well, then there you go. Look no farther than any WrestleMania celebrity involvement when you had guys like Jelly Roll or Snooki do shows. They're usually in tag matches for the most part. They're obvious outliers, but all the same. Shout out to Ron Killings, the best worker in the industry and also one of the smartest. Ron Killings, R-Truth, he's one of those WWE lifers, which means, I mean, obviously he was fired because of TKO, because of money things, but like he has a safe job and probably one of the best positions in the promotion. And all he has to do is show up, make a funny, and then he's gone. He's tenured, which means obviously the longer you are at a promotion, the more stroke and stock you have in the realm. And all R-Truth has to do is be funny. He doesn't have to set himself on fire or fall off a ladder. And so it was only after all of my injuries and all of the bumps that I've taken over the course of my 20+ year career have added up that I realized that Kevin Nash was actually very smart when he said that you do less. What's less is more. You don't have to go out there and do a million moves. You don't have to go out there and do a million spots. You need to make the moments that people will remember. And most of the time, it's not with a cool move or jumping off of something high. It's doing something that captures people's attention and emotion. So, with all that being said, guys, thank you so much for allowing me to talk about this. Let's go ahead and change things up, but we're going to split the part right here. Thank you so much if you've watched this all the way to the end. And I'll see you next time.